Day 9, reading The Power Broker. Just finished part 5, The Love of Power. Chapter 28, The Warp on the Loom. Got through pages 630 to 639, leading into now part 6, The Lust for Power. And what we're seeing in the end of this chapter is that Moses' solidification of power is complete. It's woven shut. He has control over the public authorities. He was able to, through all of his methods of like duplicity and secrecy and genius in understanding the potential for the power to be baked into the bond covenants of the public authorities and thus be contracts. He got them pushed through and signed and bamboozled the mayor, LaGuardia, and now has essentially the same level of power as the mayor. He can, and also by the murky language in other laws that he had helped draft and put into place around roads and what connecting roads, the definition of a connecting road, he is essentially baked in the power to be able to build roads or parks or any sort of public service facility wherever he wants in the city. And because he baked in those covenants, into the bonds themselves, and the bonds are contracts which are inviolable, his power is untouchable. And only he kind of realized it until it was too late, and then the mayor realized it, and they realized there was nothing they could do, so they were just like, we're going to leave him alone. And it took him decades. I mean, he got thrown into the current of government at a young age with these same ambitions to be able to have the power to just get things done the way he wanted to get them done, which in a lot of ways was good, efficient, making things happen with speed, without bureaucracy getting in the way, without government red tape stopping what could be like a good initiation. He got shot down at the beginning of his career, and then he slowly climbed his way back up to this pinnacle where, because of his understanding of like what powers he really needed, what he really had to avoid, which was being beholden to a mayor or some sort of other like government official in one sense, he baked that into inviolable contracts via the bonds and solidified that power for himself. And so now he's finally at the helm to do it the way he wanted to do it, to be able to build things the way he wanted to build them, to be able to have the speed with and efficiency with which he had so long been trying to exercise within the government. He can now do it. And because he's doing all this stuff supposedly for the public, and in a lot of ways for the public, I mean the parks that he's building and all this stuff, he's still leveraging that principle of being on the side of the angels. He has a good reputation with public opinion, so what little public officials could do to stop him, which there wasn't that very much they could do to stop him because his powers were baked into the bond contracts, they would also just veer away from, because it would be like political suicide going up against someone who had such a good reputation with the public for what he was doing. I think the problem, and this is kind of an interesting contrast between, maybe authoritarianism and democracy, is that while democracy can be slow and messy and inefficient, whereas authoritarianism can be quick, concise, thorough, and efficient, all the power has to be consolidated in one place for authoritarianism. And if by some luck of the draw that place is in a benevolent overseer, then maybe that's good for everybody. Maybe examples in history would be like, in U.S. history would be like, FDR. I know he didn't quite have like authoritarian levels of power, but I think he had like considerable power as a president. Maybe Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War, he brushed up against having incredible powers because of the nature of like the wartime situation. And I think those might be examples of like where a considerable amount of power ended up being in reasonably responsible hands. I guess this could be argued. But the risk is when you put that power in the hands of somebody who maybe does not always have the best interest of the republic or the institution or the people of a jurisdiction like New York or whatever. And we see that, Moses is one of those people. Moses does get things done. Moses did do a lot of things for the public. But what came first and foremost was his vision of how things should be. And his vision was tainted by his character. And his character was not necessarily a benevolent one. And so that's where we see the problem with this type of authoritarianism and this type of consolidation of power. It's just a risk. But still, the climb that Moses embarked on to achieve this power is admirable and reflects a degree of genius, his own genius that he leveraged to achieve the things that he wanted to achieve, at the detriment of millions by the end of everything, but he did do it. I think the last kind of thing is, this chapter is titled The Warp on the Loom, which is this incredible analogy. Robert Caro is obviously an incredible writer, and what's more, an incredible researcher, I think. I think that's his mastery, is the depth to which he's able to go to find a solid bedrock of truth. And while his writing is also beautiful, this example of the analogy of the warp on the loom, I didn't realize until towards the end of this chapter, was an analogy that's not Robert Caro's, it's Robert Moses's. And there seems to be like a common thread between, great creators across so many mediums, including the political spectrum, but a creator like Moses, and he was a creator. He created, for good or for ill, so much of the infrastructure of the greatest city on earth. But these creators are master communicators, writers a lot of the time, so much of the time. Maybe that's a broad overstatement, but I mean, this passage regarding the warp on the loom, was pulled directly from a statement issued by Robert Moses. I normally wouldn't just read straight from the book, but I mean, this is, I think, worth it, and it's straight from the mouth of Robert Moses. He says in the introduction of a brochure that he issued in 1941 to mark the 5th anniversary of the opening of the Triborough Bridge, he wrote, "If I may be permitted a personal note, I would say that it has long been a cherished ambition of mine to weave together the loose strands and frayed edges of the New York metropolitan arterial tapestry. The Triborough Bridge Authority has provided the warp on the metropolitan loom, the heavier threads across which the lighter ones are woven." So he concisely and beautifully and colorfully distilled this image of the significance of the public authorities. And I mean, it's a testament to his time at Yale. It's a testament to what Robert Caro made a point to outline, that he used to write poetry at Yale. And you see those flourishes of artistic creation, I think, in the physical works that he oversaw, but in this level of communication, his understanding and mastery of language, Robert Moses' mastery of language. And so, again, Moses is a character that's complex, and there are elements of his personality to be disdained, but there's elements of his personality to be admired. And I would say that this is one of them. This engagement and mastery with the written word and the artistry with which he wielded it to achieve the ends that he desired. I would say the artistry with which he wielded all of his traits to achieve the end that he desired. And I think ultimately that's kind of what I find to be one of the more compelling things in this book. Understanding what a man can do in this world, what a person can do in this world. So I think that's it. That's day 9, and excited to get into the next part here, part 6. The train is moving now. It's been a beautiful beginning, understanding what it took to get to this point and trying to really absorb it, and excited to keep moving forward. All right, catch you on the next page.